This is my third full-length album. I had a couple of kind of mini albums as well.
I walk the road of love for you. Take the path I know is true. I would do what I must do on the road of love.
I guess if there's a concept behind the album, it's about the journey that I've been on over the last couple of years. It talks about the perils, the grace and the way of that journey. I have a lot of influences in my music. I like listening to everything from people like John Mayer and Billy Bragg, right through to folk bands like Show of Hands and Seth Lakeman. I've used a few different musicians on this album. Graham plays a lot of guitar on it for me, which is great. He's a fantastic guitarist. There's on Across the Miles, Cy Hayden plays a double bass, and it was so good to have that sound on it. And a friend of mine, Chris Hunt, played some of the electric guitar on that as well. And then on Let It Go, Ian Farquhar from Coventry, he came up and put some bass on that. It was from a band called Decatone, who were a great sort of funk band, you know. So it's just so good getting other people involved and getting different takes on songs. You get a real different feel when people do that kind of thing. A Thousand Miles was written in France in 2009. We drove from Coventry to France in my battered old van, and the van broke down and we were kind of left in the lurch because we couldn't find the parts for this van because it was a bit of an unusual van. And so I was stuck there for probably about 3.5 weeks waiting for the right parts to come. In fact, I had to come back to the UK to pick up the parts and then fly back to France, and then got it all sorted. But I was stranded there for 3.5 weeks, and it was a good songwriting experience. But it was all about being stuck somewhere that you didn't want to be, but trying to make the most of where you are. I wrote Let It Go for a couple of friends of mine who were having separately they were having their own kind of challenges and issues in their lives that they were I guess they were coming up against. And sometimes I think that you need to let go of the anxieties, of what you see as the problem, because sometimes the problem can be a bit of a comfort thing. It can be something that you hold on to just so that you feel like you're in control.
Your barbed wire fences are just too high.
I work at a drop-in centre in Coventry, and we have a lot of characters come in. And one of those characters a few years ago was a guy called Shaggy. And Shaggy was your typical sort of down and out looking guy. You know, he carried most of what he owned in a couple of carrier bags. And I guess it's not just about him. It's different conversations I've had with different people that come into the centre. And there was one guy that I was speaking to who said, when I was talking to him, he used to say that he was going to travel the world, he was going to do all this amazing stuff. And I said to him one day, when are you going to do all this? And he said to me, look, if you don't have your dreams, you haven't got anything. and it really kind of spoke to me. So I think I put a few different characters into this one song based around Shaggy, who was this one guy. That's what it's about, having dreams and going for them.
I've been to the rocks, I've seen the sea and the rocks, they mean so much to me.
Here we are at our rehearsal venue, Music Tech, and we've got the gear. This is Ian here, and this is Rob here, and we've just got all the gear in, and all we need now is a room to put it in. But this is it. Rob's got a brand new pedal board under here. Look at this. Look at this. Lots of little gadgets and widgets, kind of all hiding under there. So we're going to have a. Oh, here you go.
Your grace is what I need.
From my experience, I find grace and I find the love that I need to persevere when I'm with people that I trust, that I love, that I know love me and have an interest in my life.
And I find it here.
A musician friend of mine asked me to write a song for him based on something that he'd been through, and he wanted it to be a kind of love song. Now to me, I kind of write, so I can only really write songs from my own experience, and I guess it turned out as something of a love song, but something of a bit of a spiritual song as well. And it is my experience, you know, that you really can't describe sometimes when you've felt love.
You wrote your name on my heart, and it's still there.
It's sound check time. Well, very nearly sound check time. We're kind of getting this. This is the YMCA in Winchester, and we're just kind of getting our kit all organised, getting ourselves sorted out for the sound check, which should be in about half an hour's time. Let's go and look at this amazing place. Incredible.
I wrote Where Sweeter Rains Fall in Bangladesh. I'd gone there with Global Care, charity that I work with quite a lot, to visit an orphanage there. And while we were there, we had to cross these huge rivers. Some of them were 1.5 miles wide, and on the banks of one of these rivers we saw these guys who were, when the tide was out, they were digging these huge holes and carrying the mud in baskets on their head back up to the bank, and then just building these huge dikes to try and save their land, because it's such a low-lying country. It was washing their farmland away. So that was the inspiration behind Where Sweeter Rain Falls. There is a river as wide as the ocean, and there are men that carry the river. That's what that was about. But it kind of looks at the humility and the majesty that these people that haven't got a thing, and the honour that they have, you know, they just carry it all the time, and it's such a humbling experience. You know, they seem to have this richness, this wealth inside of them that we don't have.
Where the sweetest rains fall. Yeah.
I went to Bangladesh in September of 2009, and there was a team of us. There was 8 of us in the team, and all had different reasons for going, all had different interests in the project that we were visiting.
A better day, where sweeter rains fall.
While we were in Bangladesh, I wrote a song called See the Beauty, which is really about seeing the value of people, even though they come from these quite horrific circumstances sometimes, particularly Global Care. We work with children, disadvantaged children, and you see that in some of these countries that Global Care work in, the innocence that these children should know is being kind of robbed of them. They've seen some stuff they really shouldn't have seen, but God still has a heart for them, still loves them, and there's a bit in this song that says we can change this world one life at a time. I first heard the phrase, just because we can't do everything doesn't mean we should do nothing. I first heard that when we went to the memorial service for Ron Newby, who was the founder of Global Care, and he'd been to Bangladesh a couple of years before us to open the orphanage that we went to, and us going 2 years later was to see various sort of projects that have been added to the orphanage, such as the fish farm, which we managed to finance. So yeah, it was just a real honour to go there and see it.
Flower in the rain. You are a child and you have a name.
1, 2, 3. Occasionally you write a song and you have no idea where it came from, and I think I'd just been playing with these alternate tunings on this guitar. It was a dadgad tuning, and D-A-D, G-A-D, and I found this riff, and yeah, I don't know where the song really came from, but we were up recording it, and we just finished recording See the Beauty. I had a little bit of extra time, so I said to Sandy in the studio, can I just do this song really quickly, just do it as a demo, and that was one take, and we put a drum on the backbeat, and that's what we ended with. No, Jerusalem is a Steve Earle song, and I'd been listening to Bob Harris, and he'd been talking about Steve Earle, so I thought, I'll have a look and see what it's all about. So I was looking on the internet, and I found the album Jerusalem, and I was listening to a few things on that. It was so spot on. It was such a song about hope, believing that there'll be peace, believing that there'll be, people from all sides will be able to lay down their arms, will lay down their swords, and I thought it just expressed a real desire, which I kind of have as well.
In Jerusalem.
I do a few covers in my gigs, and I think the last couple of albums that I've done have all had covers on of some sort. And I don't know if it's a fear thing that people won't know my songs, so I think I have to do something that other people know. I don't know, but when I do other songs, when I do other people's songs, I do try and make them my own songs, so I don't do a carbon copy sort of version of a song. It has to be owned, and the same with every song. A song doesn't sound right if you don't sound like you own it and you believe what you're singing.
And again, and I can't stand the sound. Shaggy was a good friend that I knew since he was old. You could always see him walking a step ahead of the cold. Said he's gonna buy a camper, gonna drive the world and see the places that he's been to 1,000 times in his dream.
Dangerous Thing, I think, was written around the riff that I wrote for it, and I had these words knocking around for ages. It always bugs me to see people living half of what they believe, to be kind of talking the right thing but not living it and not walking it. So Dangerous Thing was just saying, look, if you're saying you believe something, you've got to live it, and living it can be quite dangerous sometimes because not everybody will believe what you believe and think what you think. See, Si Hayden's very vain, he just plays in front of the mirror all the time. Across the Miles was a song I wrote for my wife. She was, I think I was somewhere in Scotland, and when I go away on tour, you know, we keep in touch by email and stuff, and I was checking an email from her one time, and it just said, you know, something like there was no news. She just wanted to say that she loved me, which was very nice, and that's where the song came from. So it's just a bit of a love song, which is nice to write. Okay.
Reaches across the miles. So meet me at the foot of the tree. We'll climb to the top and we'll see places that we know we can be when we climb.
Yeah. Meet Me was a bit of a surprise. Quite often I have an idea for a song that kind of brews for ages and then the song will come out. Meet Me, I think I was just playing around on the guitar one day and it just came out very, very quickly. It was one of those songs that kind of wrote itself, and I think it's one of, at the moment, from the album, it's probably one of the most powerful songs live. People kind of identify with that song more than anything else. I think we recorded this one a bit differently to Best Thing That Happened, because the Best Thing That Happened was recorded in a block. We went up there for 2 weeks and we got a few people in, and we worked on the album solidly for 2 weeks. Graham and Sandy worked on it after that and finished it all off, which was great. This time it took probably about nearer 2 years to record this album from start to finish, because it was recorded in different chunks, if you like, which is why I think there's so many different sounds and feels on the album. You know, you have the acoustic kind of thing, you have some rough edges, but you have the polished stuff as well.
If I could, oh, I'd tear them down for you. If I could,